Hey guys, it's your girl Pixie and I'm back with another video. If you guys are new to my channel, welcome to Pixie's World. If you guys are not new, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be discussing growing up in the same household as your sibling and getting raised and treated completely different, amongst other problems that we have in the urban and black community and in the hood and the problems. We are going to be using the movie Boys in the Hood to illustrate my points. But before we get into the video, guys, please like, please comment, please share, please subscribe, and please be sure to follow me on all my social media platforms. If you guys know me, you know that I pick topics mostly on self-growth, development, and improvement. But in self-growth and healing, we also have to address the root of the problems and where they come from. Today's topic is about how you can live in the same household and be raised and treated completely differently than your sibling. I am using Boys in the Hood so you guys can see where I'm coming from. I will also be discussing other issues in the urban and ghetto that stain your adulthood if you don't seek help. Specifically, the sibling is a topic that is near and dear to me as it comes from personal experience. The first problem is literally in the first second of the movie. If you pay attention on the screen, it says that 1 in 20 blacks will die. And then the next slide, it says mostly by other blacks. We scream pro-black, but we are crabs in a barrel, and we are teaching others how to treat us. If you haven't seen my Meek Mille's video, check it out. I'll go more into details about this issue. So the movie starts in South Central LA in the year of 1984. Guys, I'm not really sure why most of the hood movies are in LA, being as though it's a lot of crimes going on in a lot of areas in the world. But that's just one thing that I've noticed about most of these hood movies. As you can see, the kids are walking, and one of the kids asks to copy another kid's homework, which shows that one kid is doing the work while the other person just wants to get by. You see the kids walking, and they're talking about shooting dead body remains literally in the first minute of the movie. We later on go to the kids inside the classroom, and you can see where there's kids having cops, helicopters, and basically drawings of police brutality. That is saying a lot because these kids are very young, and they're basically drawing what they see. So it lets you know that it's a lot going on and where they growing up with and what's going on around them, literally in the very beginning of the movie. You know that they are living in a bad neighborhood. Trey is one of the main characters, and you can see where him and some of his classmates are different. One kid is more worried about the streets than schoolwork, and then one is basically worried about the schoolwork, but he has a bad temper, but he's very smart. And in the first few minutes of the movie, you see that they are fighting in class, and they basically the teacher goes to call the mom, and this is where we get into another issue in the black community. The teacher suggests counseling, but in the black community, we are very quick to deny the problems that we have, and we just say, oh no, my kid doesn't need it, my kid doesn't need help, and she denies the counseling. But honestly, guys, most of us all need counseling. Most of us all need healing, and most of us need a little bit or somebody to talk to. I'm assuming that was the last straw that Trey's mom had with him, because she drops him off. And she drops him off to his dad's house, where she leaves the dad to temporarily raise him until the end of the school year. Her and the son had an agreement that if he gets into one more fight, that he will be staying with the dad. She gets in the car with the dad, and she basically tells him that she cannot raise her son to be a man. That is also another problem that we face in the community. We don't have our dad's support, and why are there so many men making kids who don't want them? Mom should have breaks, and other parents should be able to do the part that the other parent can't. Trey's dad from the very beginning is trying to get the boys to do work, build structure. They leave immediately and leave Trey to basically pick up the leaves on his own. When he gets in the house after washing up, the dad lays out the rules, basically to clean the tub, clean rooms. And he lays out his rules and his roles that he is supposed to do as a man and to provide for his kids. His dad lets him know that his friends will end up bad because they lack adults giving them structure. And the dad tells his son that he's a prince. Guys, yes, while it is important to discipline your kids, it is also as important to tell your kids how much they mean and their value. In the black community, we often tell our kids what we're doing wrong, but we don't often praise them for what they're doing right, and more so, not enough praise. Yeah, they'll get a golden star, or they'll get a new game system, but it really needs to be implemented. As much as y'all scream and shout about what's going on wrong, y'all need to scream and shout about what's going on right. Later on, the dad is basically getting robbed. And when his dad realizes, he gets his gun and he shoots. He does miss the person, but unfortunately, some hoods are worse than others. Dad isn't proud that he has to kill another black man or that he has to attempt to kill another black man. But in the world we live in, it's killed or be killed. The cops show up later, and the cops are not quick to come, as the man been waiting for over an hour for the cops to even come. And they don't take it seriously because this goes on in the hood all the time. The cop is kind of upset that he doesn't get the guy. He says literally, "Too bad you didn't get him. That will be one less nigga." While that is a little messed up for him to say, I can see that everybody gets tired of the guys, the black men in the community, messing up stuff, stealing, robbing, and killing, especially to innocent people who are being mostly affected by the crimes. Fast forward, the part where I get emotionally distraught is where the mother starts talking down on Doughboy, telling him that he ain't shit and name calling. The mom's just ghetto and just nice to the other kid. She asks Trey why his dad doesn't play cards, which is another black problem that we have. People in the hood always have a problem when you want to change or do better. They say that you're acting funny and acting different. And guys, if you want to improve, you definitely should be acting different. Later on, as we go more into the movie, we see Doughboy, Trey, Ricky, and Chris going into the yard, and they see a dead body that has been sitting there for a minute. This goes back to what I said about the hood. They are less quick to come to the hood and the rescue. The dead body has been sitting there for days, as they talk about how the body stinks. Older kids come up to the kids and basically tell them to leave the dead body alone, and they continue to play like there's nothing going on. Now we introduce another problem. The kids have a ball. Ricky brings a ball and his brother tells him not to bring it, but he decides to bring it anyway. Doughboy was absolutely right to tell Ricky not to bring the ball, but why does that even have to be a thing? Why are older kids messing with the little kids? Hood people ain't got nothing else to do. I really hate bullies. That's another problem that we have, but we're going to leave that for another discussion. They continue to play with the guys' balls and they act like they don't want to give it back. But one guy finally steps up and tells them to just give the guy the ball back. And he was nice enough to give the ball back to Ricky. That does not usually happen in the hood. When somebody takes something from you, you usually ain't getting it back. You could kiss whatever you had goodbye. So that is a little good, I guess. We move forward to Dad spending time with Trey and instills more principles. Dad reveals that he was raised in a rough area as well and makes the changes to be a better person and change his environment because he doesn't want his son to go through what he went through. So in the previous scene where the kids was going out to play, they mentioned that after they depart that one of them was going to the store and then one says, "You don't have no money," and then the other kid says, "I'm still going," which I don't know which two kids, but fast forward, Trey goes out with his dad, and later on that day, as Trey is returning home, Doughboy and Miles go to jail for stealing. The cops put them in the back of the car and take them to jail. Do you guys remember when Trey's dad was outside and had his son sweeping and he warned Trey about his friends in the future and what direction they was going in? Fast forward 7 years later, we're at the cookout. Ricky has a kid, and mom is still being nice to him. While Doughboy is outside playing cards and drinking beer, and they're outside talking about cars, beers, bidding, and bitches, sex conversation, and miseducation, and they just want to brag. This is another black issue. Instant gratification. Even when they stole from the store, they're just worrying about having sex without diseases and stealing without going to jail. They are worried about the instant gratification and not worrying about the consequences. Trey shows up at the cookout, and the mom asks Trey to talk to Doughboy. 7 years later, he keeps getting locked up while Trey is working and staying out the way. Also, Ricky, even though he has a kid, he's doing pretty good for himself. So why is it that Doughboy and Ricky are brothers, and Ricky's doing pretty good for himself while Doughboy is out here causing havoc and all over the place? Fast forward, we get into another black issue. While the girls are sitting there gossiping and playing around, the girls are talking about Trey and saying how cute he is, and the other girl basically admits that that's her boyfriend. This is the character played by Nia Long. After the girl tells them that that's her man, they continue to talk they little mess and nag and Joe and keep it pushing. Why are we pitted against each other, and why are we trying to steal each other's man? It's too many guys out here in the world. Find somebody else. Now it's time to eat at the cookout, which raises another issue. The guys try to eat first and proceed to use bees and holes. We gotta do better. I'm not saying that other races don't disrespect their women, but they don't allow others to do it. But when a black woman is disrespected, we often laugh and think it's a joke when it's not funny. We continue to disrespect our women and all that, and we just playing around with them. And then yes, sometimes it's all jokes, but it really does something to a female self-esteem. On Trey's way home from the cookout, he runs into some gangsters that run up on him, but they just play around with him and let him go. The only reason that I'm assuming that they let him go is because they know that he's really not into the streets like that. So they just scare him a little bit and just play around with him, and then they let him keep it pushing. And the next, we had Trey basically arguing with his girlfriend about having sex with him. Peer pressure. Now, I'm not going to put that on the black community because that just goes on everywhere. But guys are basically peer pressuring the girlfriends to have sex and to do stuff that they're not ready for. Why not just date a girl who wants to do what you guys are into? Why mess with the good girls? Just leave them alone. Next, we have a guy who just takes it upon himself to think that he can run up on a group of 3 guys and run off with the chain. Obviously, he doesn't get far before he gets jumped by the guys and they get the chain back. But he should be lucky that that's the only thing that happened to him. Next, we have the college recruiter who comes to see Ricky. The mom is up his ass while still being mean to Doughboy. She's catering to Ricky and the recruiter and bringing them drinks while down talking Doughboy. When the man shows up, the brothers and the friends are outside just being ghetto. They don't even have enough class to clean up their act when they see somebody come up that can change the trajectory of their friend and brother's future. Mom continues to talk down on her son. It gets so bad that even the friends notice. Doughboy is obviously a mess, but it starts at home. Later on in the movie, Ricky gets shot and killed. And guys, the decisions that you make affect everyone, and the streets don't have an expiration date. The mom blames Doughboy for the death. Doughboy was in the street, but the brother was hanging out there too. Sometimes you are guilty by association. We all got decisions to make, and you have to watch your circle. As I said earlier, even though Trey hung out with them, I feel like he made more of an effort to distance himself. Whereas Ricky, even though that's his brother, you can still distance yourself from the street. Trey obviously made enough impression to know that he is not about that life, and that's not what he get into. While Ricky is going to school and doing what he's supposed to do, but he's still out there with his brother, and he's still out there talking trash. And it's like, if you now don't want to be involved with that, then you just need to keep your mouth closed and turn the other way. Trey is obviously hurt by his friend's death, and while he is not about that life, he goes gets to get a gun after Ricky is shot. His dad talks him down. Most of us don't have that. In Doughboy's situation, he's already grown up with a single mom, and to make it worse, the one parent that he has have to lean on only focuses on the one sibling. We are all little people in adult bodies. Pain does not go away. You just find a different thing to do to fill the void. Later on, they come up with a plan to do a drive-by and to kill the people responsible for Ricky's death. Trey initially wants to get in the car, but he changes his mind. Sometimes you just gotta be different. Going back to the peer pressure. I respect Doughboy at least because he didn't make Trey feel bad about getting out of the car. In the hood, they make you feel bad or taunt you when you don't want to do things differently. This is going back to another problem. Like I said, this is not just a black problem thing, but it's definitely a hood thing, as well as in other places too. Peer pressure is very big, and people make you feel like you're not about that life or you're nobody if you're not doing the same thing as everybody else do. As some of the dust settles, Trey and Doughboy have a heart-to-heart talk, and Doughboy finally vents about his life and how his mom only cared about Ricky. And guys, I'm speaking from experience. That stuff carries on until adulthood. That's pretty much the end of the movie. Doughboy walks off, and then there's a quote about how he attended his brother's funeral, and 2 weeks later, he dies. I'm going to say that we are not kind of surprised that Doughboy ends up dying. It's just more a surprise that Ricky ends up dying when he is not in the street. But it goes back to what I said. You have to be careful about who you associate yourself with. Now, instead of losing your favorite son, you basically lose both of your sons. And you are left to deal with, oh my God, I was such a bad mom, or what could I have done differently? That is part of the problem, which if you would have took the steps that you needed to take in the beginning, maybe some of the dynamics of the situation could have changed. Now you have nobody or nothing to do but to sit there and reflect on the decisions that you made as a parent. Now I'm going to take it back to the beginning of the movie. Remember when the teacher calls and suggests that Trey gets therapy? Now, in Trey's case, it was a little different because he didn't turn out all that bad. But we all need a little bear therapy. He watched a lot of bad things happen to him, or more so around him, but I'm pretty sure that he could have still used the therapy regardless because we all have things that we need to deal with. In Doughboy's case, his life made a turn from the things he dealt with from childhood. And if he would have got the help he needed, his life may have turned out a little differently. Kids aren't the only one who need therapy. Parents do too. To see where the root of the problem comes from and why they are parenting the way that they do. So guys, I just want to put in my last thoughts before I end the video. I grew up with a parent that treated me differently, and while I was never jealous of my sibling, it definitely causes tension between the two of you, whether it's in the beginning or it's in the end. And it often leads one kid feeling alone and often to live and parent and raise themselves. I experienced this. Yes, I've had a parent in my life, but I was forced to support my own self and build my own self-esteem and be my biggest supporter. Yes, my mom raised me. She took care of me. She made sure I looked nice. She put clothes on my back and everything. But as far as the support that I needed, I felt like I was on my own. I know that one kid is usually more independent, but we all still need our parents. It goes back to what I said earlier. We are all adults in kids' bodies. Emotions and the feelings don't go away just because you're an adult. Parents, seek therapy. It starts at home. I know the streets have a huge impact on your kids' life, but it starts from the home. The world is already against us, and parents have us doomed from the start. At least Trey, while growing up in the hood, had two parents who molded him to be different. He had two examples. Meanwhile, in the hood, your parents in the street F you up. It makes a difference and starts from the home. Never think that your influence isn't as important as who your kids hang out with and what they see, because you mold them and how to deal with what they do see. Yes, your kids are out in the street and they have different friends that influence them and introduce them to new things in their life. But I'm going to take it back to the Bible. I don't know exactly the verse. I'm going to look for it. But it basically says that your kids, something about your kids straying off. And basically they go back to the roots of what they were taught. We are all going through different phases in our life. And we are all making changes. And yes, while we may seem like we have no hope in the beginning, sometimes kids, in most cases, revert back to the ways that their parents have taught them. I'll give myself as an example. I used to go out, party all the time, and all of that stuff. But I am slowly turning into my mother as I'm getting older and realizing that the streets and outside just ain't it. Guys, I'm going to end the video here. Y'all already know what I'm going to say next. Please pray to God. Please protect your peace. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Mwah.